Hi everyone, welcome to episode 21. It's been quite a while since the last episode, but trying to get back into the swing of things. So let's start off by creating 5 different weapon variations for each of our different waves. So I'm just going to drag this gun into the scene, and let's see, I just want to modify this model to make it look like some sort of uninspiring starting pistol. So maybe I'll just scale this down a bit. Rotate the handle, delete this other cube over here. It's a bit of an odd shape. Let's see, how can we fix that? Yeah, that looks a bit better. Can maybe have some sort of suggestion of a underbarrel attachment. And yeah, okay, that looks like a nice crappy pistol. So just want to delete one of these projectile spawns because it's only going to fire 1 bullet at a time. And I'll just position this at 0 on the x-axis and give it 0 rotation. Okay, put it there. Bring the muzzle flash in as well. And we can just modify some of these properties, like set the fire mode to single. Maybe give it a lower muzzle velocity, say 20. And say it's got, 12 projectiles per magazine. Alright, we can call that gun 01, that's our starting weapon. Create a new folder to store all of our guns in, all those weapons. And we can drag this first one in. So I'm just going to go ahead and repeat a similar process for the remaining 4 guns, but I'll spare you having to watch that in real time because it's going to be pretty tedious. Okay, so I've assembled this little arsenal of weaponry here, and I have played with the individual properties of the guns a little bit, but we'll do most of the tweaking here once we get to the sort of balancing phase of the game in a couple of episodes. So I'm going to delete all these guns from my scene since they're, of course, saved as prefabs down here, and I'm going to go into my prefabs and just delete this one gun that we sort of used as our template at the beginning. So now I'd like to be able to equip each of those guns at the start of a new wave. So let us go onto the player and open up the gun controller script. The latest version of MonoDevelop broke my old color theme, so you can see I'm experimenting with a new one here. Not sure if I like it yet. You might see it change a bunch during the next few episodes, but let me know if you particularly hate it or if it's hard to read or anything like that. So now that we've got all of our guns, let's change, instead of just having a starting gun, we'll create a public gun array of all of our guns. Alright, I can just remove all of the starting gun stuff from the start method. And if we just save, go into Unity, you can just open up all guns and say go into weapons. I'll just lock this for a moment. Select here, drag these all in. They've gone in reverse order. Fantastic. I'll have to do it manually, I guess. That's a shame. Alright, gun 1, gun 2, 4, and 5. Okay, so we want each of these to be equipped at the start of a new wave. So let's make our way into the player script, and we can create a new method on new wave. Takes in an integer for the wave number. Okay, and we'll want to find our spawner object, so we can say find object of type spawner. We'll access the onNewWave event and just add our own onNewWave method to that so that this gets called with each new wave. So we want to make sure that this does get called for the first wave so that our first gun gets equipped. But at the moment it's kind of a race between this start method being called and our spawner start method being called, so that we sort of assign our method in time. So in order to make sure that we win that race, let's rather put this code in an awake method. Alright, I'll just copy all of this, or rather cut it into the awake method, like so. And now in the onNewWave method, maybe regenerate health with each wave. So say health equals starting health. And then we also want to equip our next weapon. So we'll say gun controller dot equip gun. And we'll pass in the wave number -1 as the index of the gun we want to equip. So at the moment, the gun controller equip gun method takes in a gun, not an integer, but we can make another version of this method, public void equip gun int, let's call that weapon index. Okay, and this version of the method will just call the other version, but it will say equip gun, and it will pass in the gun from the all guns array with an index of weapon index. Okay, so that should be working. Let's give it a try. Go to full screen mode, press play. So I've got my little pistol, and if I want to go to the next wave, we added that development mode thing where we just press enter. So I can try that out. This is I fell off, brilliant. I have to try that again. Okay, so this is my 3-round burst gun that I made. Let's go to the next one. This should be a little automatic weapon. The next one's supposed to be some sort of shotgun thing. It fires three shots at a time. Let's go to the next one. This final one is meant to be some sort of automatic shotgun type thing. Okay, so those all working. They clearly need some tweaking and definitely some sound effects, otherwise they feel pretty lame. But we'll get to that. So one irritating thing that I'm sure you've all noticed in previous episodes is that when you kill the enemies, their particle effects don't change to match the color of their skin, if you want to call it that. So what we can do, since the enemy death effect is using the enemy material, if we just go into the enemy, and over here where we set the skin material, we're currently setting this material, but what we can do is we can set its shared material rather, and that way all instances of that material will be affected, including the enemy death effect. So now, if we play, and I'll just skip forward to the next wave, you can see that the death effect is a nice blue, so we can all be happy. Okay, so the last thing I'd like to do this episode is to create a little banner that pops up at the start of each new wave, just saying like the wave number and maybe the number of enemies in the wave. So let's go onto our canvas. I'm just going to create an empty child, call this something along the lines of new wave banner, and can create an image, just make that a child of the new wave banner. And let's go into 2D mode, and we can just make this sort of stretch across the screen, like so, maybe move it up, and I don't know, give it a dark, transparency material, like so. Maybe we want to give it a slight trim, something like that. Yeah, that looks okay. Then let's create some text. So I'm going to change the size to best fit. Just scale this up. Let's see, can type in here maybe wave 1. Right, maybe make this white and just make it center aligned. Let's just bump up the max size. Okay, I think I just want to get a nicer font quickly. I'll just grab something, let me see. Okay, I'll drag in this Open Sans Regular. use that instead. Just a little bit more classy. Okay. I think I want to make this image a little bit bigger. So below that, in a slightly smaller font, we can have enemies, colon, and however many enemies they are. Why have you disappeared? Come back. Okay, so that's a nice little banner. So I think at the beginning of a wave, it can just sort of come and then pause for a moment and then disappear again. So let's go onto our game UI script. Okay, so let's create a public rect transform variable for our new wave banner. And let's also create two public text variables, one for the new wave, let's call it new wave number, or actually title, I'll call it. And then the second one, public text, new wave enemy count. Okay, so once again, we're going to want to be notified of the start of each new wave. So void on new wave, int wave number. Okay, and I'm going to want a reference to my spawner. So just spawner, and then in the awake method, we can assign that spawner equals, that should be with a small s, spawner equals find object of type spawner. Okay, and then we can say spawner, grab the onNewWave event and assign our onNewWave method to that. Alright, so on this onNewWave event, we're going to want to set the new wave title. So new wave title.text is equal to, start off with a dash because it's stylish, and then we can say wave followed by the wave number. I'd quite like it if we have the wave number sort of written as a word, so ONE as opposed to just the number 1. So we can do that pretty simply, just create a string array called numbers. There are only 5 numbers we need to type out, so it's not too tedious. Just open curly brackets, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. We can then say plus the number from our numbers array with an index of wave number -1. And then we just add a space and a closing dash. Okay, so for the new wave enemy count, we can now set that equal to enemies colon plus, and then we'll get our spawner and we'll find our current wave by just going waves and getting the index, once again, wave number -1 dot, and it's got an enemy count variable right for us over there. So that's good. The only thing left to do now is to actually animate the rise and fall of the banner. So let's, since that happens over time, we're going to use a coroutine. So let's say start coroutine, pass in a coroutine called, what should we call it? Animate new wave banner should be good. Okay, so let's create that. IE numerator, just copy the name, animate new wave banner. Alright, so what we'll have is a float for the animation %. Okay, so that starts off at 0, and what will happen is we'll have the animation % going from 0 to 1, so that will be it sort of rising up to whatever height we want it to rise, and then it will pause for a few moments to sort of give the player time to read the text, and then the percentage will go from 1 back down to 0 as this falls back off the screen. So we'll want a float speed, so maybe a 2.5, I don't know, we'll see what works best. And we'll want to specify a delay time as well, just sort of how long it pauses for at the top of its animation while it waits for the player to read. So we can say while the animate percent is greater than or equal to 0. So once the animation percent falls below 0, then the banner will be off the screen and we can finish the animation. So while that's the case, we want to say animate percent plus equals time.delta time multiplied by our animation speed. And then we also want to multiply this by the direction. Okay, so once it reaches the top, we'll set direction equal to -1 so that it starts going down. Okay, so we can say that once the animation percent reaches 1, so if it's greater than or equal to 1, so that then means that the banner has gone as high as it's going to go, and we want to wait for our delay time to finish before we start moving down again. So we'll create a float called end delay time. Okay, so that should be equal to the time that the animation starts plus how long it's going to take for the banner to reach its maximum height, which will be the same as the time it takes for percent to go from 0 to 1, and that is determined by the speed. So we'll say plus 1 divided by the speed to get the time, and then we want to add our delay time, so plus the delay time. Okay, so once the animation percent reaches 1, we'll then say, first of all, that the animation percent is equal to 1, since we never wanted to go too far above 1. Okay, then we can say if the current time is greater than our end delay time, then we've finished waiting, and we can now set the direction equal to -1. So on the next pass, animation percent will be below 1, and this if won't execute. Alright, so that should be working. We should be getting an animation percentage that goes from 0 to 1, waits for the delay time to pass, and then goes back down and falls below 0, at which point our animation ends. Okay, so now we just want to actually move the banner. So let's have a look. If we just move its position Y, we can see that it's off the screen at a value of about -170, and maybe we wanted to go to a height of, say, I don't know, maybe 35 is good, maybe a little bit higher. I don't know where it looks best. I'll take it to 45, so between -170 and 45 is its sort of movement range. So we can say new wave banner dot anchored position is equal to vector2.up, since we're working with the y-axis, and we'll multiply that by mathf.lerp. So we want to go between the values -170, where it's completely off the bottom of the screen, to 45, where it's at our sort of ideal viewing height, and we lerp between those using our animate percentage. Okay, so all we need to do now is say yield return null, so that it waits a frame between running the while loop. And yeah, that should be working. Got a little error here. I need to say new wave enemy count dot text. Okay. Let's go onto our canvas and just assign all these variables here. So new wave banner, the title, and the enemy count. I'll just quickly name these to be organized. So this is the title, and this is the enemy count, and I'll call this banner image, and call this maybe the banner trim or outline. Okay, so let's save and let's give this a try. Okay, so wave 1, the banner's popping up nicely. It says 0 enemies, which is correct. I think the delay is maybe a little bit short, and maybe it'll increase the animation speed. Oh, it says enemies -1 for this last wave, when in fact it should be infinite. I'd forgotten about that. So we'll have to create a special case. So let me just quickly say delay time is equal to 1.5, and I'll maybe bump up the animation speed a little bit. Okay, so we're going to create a string here called enemy count string, and we want to check first if it's an infinite wave, which we can do by saying spawner.waves, the current wave, and it's got an infinite bool, so we can check. So if it's infinite, then we want to assign the string infinite to our enemy count string. Otherwise, so we add a colon. Otherwise, we just set it equal to the actual count. All right. And now we can just replace all of this with the enemy count string. Okay, so that should be working. Let's skip ahead to the last wave to check that. Okay, it's got some funny behavior there if we skip ahead too fast. So we should probably just reset the coroutine each time. So we'll want to say stop coroutine. And I believe we can only stop a coroutine if we've called it with a string instead of with an IEnumerator. So let's just replace the parameter like that. And let's give that a go. Yeah, that's working nicely now. Okay, fantastic. So that's everything for this episode, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.